I'd like to call to order the February 10th, 2021 meeting of the City of Urbana Human Relations Commission. May we have a roll call, please?
Carol Bradford, Stacy Burnett, Reverend Florence Caplow.
Here.
Daniel Larson, Megan McKissick.
Here.
Peter Resnick.
Here.
Francis Rigberg.
Here.
Julie Robinson Schaefer.
Here.
And it looks like we got Stacy on the line.
Oh, yay.
Hello.
Stacy.
Hi.
I'm glad you're here. Okay. We do have a quorum. And next would be the approval of our agenda for this evening. I'll entertain a motion for approval of the agenda. Somebody?
I move to approve the agenda for today.
Who was that? I didn't see who was speaking.
It was Megan.
Megan.
It was Megan. Hi, Megan. Okay. Any discussion? I'm sorry, we need a second. See, I told you. Florence. Okay.
I second the motion.
Okay, great. So we have Megan moving and Florence seconding the approval of our agenda for this evening. Do we have any discussion about that? Okay, let's have a roll call vote.
Stacy Burnett.
Present.
We're voting on the
It's
agenda.
a yes or no.
Yes, I'm sorry. Yes.
Reverend Florence Caplow.
Aye.
Megan McKissick.
Yes.
Peter Resnick.
Yes.
Francis Rigberg.
Yes.
Julie Robinson Schaefer.
Yes.
Okay, we have approval of the agenda. We have our minutes of our last meeting, which was on January 13th, which is
I'll move
nice and
approval of the January 13th minutes.
excellent. Pete, do we have a second?
A second.
Was that
Stacy.
Stacy? Okay. Do we have any discussion of that? Anything anyone wants to add or change? Okay, let's have a roll call vote.
Stacy Burnett.
Yes.
Reverend Florence Caplow.
Yes.
Megan McKissick.
Yes.
Peter Resnick. Francis
Did you
Rigberg.
not hear?
I'm
Yes was
sorry,
the,
I didn't.
That's okay.
Gotcha, thank you.
I muted and unmuted too quickly. Yes.
Francis Rigberg.
Yes.
Julie Robinson Schaefer.
Yes.
Okay, excellent. Now we have approval of those minutes. Public participation. Anybody has raised their hand?
Looks like
Excellent.
Christopher Hansen has his hand raised.
Okay, Christopher.
Hello, can you hear me okay?
Yep. Just fine.
Cool, thanks. So this is Christopher Hansen. I live in Urbana. So at your last meeting, you discussed the two, I guess, variants of changing the HR ordinance. And then, so was it the last meeting or the previous meeting? I can't remember now. Anyways.
Last meeting.
Okay. There were two variants of those documents, and the biggest problem I had with that meeting is that those documents were not visible to the public. And so I emailed the whole board and I asked, could someone post them? Could you send them to me? And no one responded. And I had to email again and again and again, and it was like 4 or 5 emails deep. And I don't quite understand maybe people are busy, but it's what seems like a resistance to just posting to the public the documents you're voting on.
Would you like me to speak to that, Christopher? Because I can.
I
can explain that.
I would love to have a back and forth. I'm in favor of that. So sure, yeah.
Well, I would just like to tell you that most of the time that we've met, are whatever documents we were voting on or that were received by the commission members were also posted on our website. And that sort of fell by the wayside. And I didn't realize that. So that was the reason I was confused. So that's going to be done again from now on, that anything we have, you have, the public.
And
Yeah.
can I make one other
Yes,
one other
please.
quick comment in this regard?
Certainly.
If it's okay with the speaker, and you can hold his time for a moment if
Yeah, that's okay.
I'm perfectly in favor of back and forth, so sure.
So the other thing I wanted to mention, and this is for all of the public, and when you're interacting with the commission, when you send an email or speak publicly to the commission, one of the problems that we run into is that's part of an open meeting. And especially an email, by sending to the entire commission, you have now, if we respond, we end up forming, for electronic purposes, an open meeting. So our practice has been not to respond to things in reply all fashion. If individuals are able to or want to respond, we do, although we tend to try and avoid doing that because it makes for some perception that there's some sort of conversation with the commission. The better suggestion to the public to interact with the commission, if you want to do that, is ask an individual commissioner if they have time to talk, or if it's something administrative like this, contact the staff person at the city. And then they can communicate with the commission, find out if someone is willing to engage with you about a particular topic. But one of the things that we want the public to be aware of is that as a public commission, by having group interactions with individuals, and it's somewhat easier at meetings, although still tricky, it opens all sorts of holes for funny things to happen. So we try and avoid those one-on-one interactions, which is also why public members of the public don't often have interactive discussions with the commission during public participation. We want that to be public participation. So I thank you, Mr. Hanson, for letting me speak during your time, and I hopefully will reset the time so you have your full time to speak if you like.
Thanks, Pete. Yes, that's very true.
So, sure, yeah, I understand the concern you're saying, and Pete Resnick is certainly right. If there was a back and forth among the members of the board, all included in an email, that would end up becoming officially a public meeting. However, just one of you responding back would not engage that issue. So just kind of responding. And really, I don't think you needed really to respond to me at all so much as just post the documents on the website. But anyways, the sequence of events that happened after that is then the public didn't have the documents, and then it turned out that the city council didn't have the documents when it came up in their committee of the whole meeting, and the whole conversation kind of just blew up and became kind of a waste of everyone's time. So I guess more communication would be good, and I understand we can't have, group chats or whatever through email, but if I email or someone emails the board, you definitely can write back. That's not an Open Meetings Act violation. We can't engage in, I think the word is contemporaneous back and forths where we're actually having a discussion. So I don't know. I've come to this board and frequently had issues of trying to get any type of response through emails and stuff. And it certainly doesn't feel good from the aspect of, someone, a member of the public. I know you guys think I'm probably super abrasive and maybe not worth responding to, but I don't know. There's a problem there for sure. In regards to my email about Mr. James Simon, certainly that was overbearing, calling him a bad person. But it is the case that he's directly lied to the council and to the public on multiple occasions regarding issues of city ordinance and stuff. So I don't know who to bring that issue to. If I think there is a significant ethical issue in the city, we don't have an ethics board. And obviously my criticism there was overboard and inaccurate. But and maybe you can answer this after I finish talking, like what do you expect citizens of Urbana to do, residents of Urbana rather, if someone in the city is doing something that they feel is terribly unethical and contrary to what I feel are the values of the people of Urbana? And you're the closest thing we have to an ethics board. And I've been trying repeatedly to kind of bring some issues to your attention, and I feel like I usually just get pushed aside. So I don't know what else to do there. And in my last 30 seconds, I'll get back into the technical aspects. What I suggested in my email was that Mr. Simon should have invoked Chapter 2, Article 9 of the City Code, which talks about indemnity, and it talks about the hiring of outside attorneys, and it talks about conflicts of interest. And that's exactly the type of thing that Mr. Resnick was trying to essentially, he was repeating that work in his efforts to write an adjustment to the Human Rights Ordinance. But what I'm saying is the city code already has that built into it. And that's what should have been looked at in the recent hearing. And I feel like our city attorney purposely didn't recognize that and didn't engage that because he didn't want to see that process go through in an honest way. So I don't know if anyone has had time to look at that part of the city code, but I think you could cite that in your suggestion, whatever you're going to pass forward to council there. So, thank you.
Okay, thank you. I'd like to say that generally when one has a problem with someone who is an employee of someone else, you can always go to their boss. And so that is certainly a venue. I'm not saying it's the ideal one or whatever, but I am saying that that is what I would do if I thought that someone in any organization was doing something unethical. I would go to the person who hired them and who is responsible for their being there. Just a suggestion, one thing more you could do. Okay, unfinished business. Anybody else want to make a comment there? Any other people who want to participate from the public?
There are no other hands raised.
Okay, thank you. I can't see that right here. So we have unfinished business, and there they are, the proposed changes to the HRC ordinance, which I have to say I was surprised did not find their way directly into the eager hands of the City Council. But Pete can update us a bit. Some of us may have watched that meeting.
Yeah.
But about the status of our proposed changes.
I'm happy to. And during that meeting, it became quickly obvious that because we hadn't published our minutes yet and we didn't make any special arrangement to get our resolution as passed signed and to them before the council meeting, that was a little bit of a kerfuffle. They are meeting as the committee of the whole next week and are planning to have the conversation again. Carol Mitten has again invited me to join the meeting just in case council members have questions, and I will do so. And I take it you all may also join the meeting if you like. The city council had, even in our short discussion, our abbreviated discussion, some good questions, some misconceptions about how certain mechanisms work that I tried to, explain. So I think they understand that it is, clearly something they have to address and have to address in a timely manner. Some of the back and forth, and when Carol invited me for next week, it seems clear that she is going into a fuller explanation of what the commission proposed, which was 2 sets and the council gets to choose. City staff's evaluation of our proposals and analysis and the logistics, what it would take to do one thing, what it would take to do the other. And she's preparing to present to them about that and then have me there for quite technical questions about why we recommended certain things. I did explain to her when she invited me that this was done by a set of volunteers and certainly not lawyers among us. And so we gave the best recommendation we could given our experience, but obviously this has to be reviewed by legal counsel, make sure that we're doing everything the way that is appropriate. And I'll report back after the next city council meeting. Well, commission of the whole meeting, and then I expect at some point the city council will take it up, and make a recommendation to, pass one way or the other, whatever set of changes they see fit. And I'll keep up on it and report back to you all when we find out what they do.
I'd like to remind everybody that we can, as private citizens, attend that meeting and express our concerns or our preferences, or tell Pete what they are even, perhaps.
It, by the way, is hard to contain yourself from the other side of that podium and not raise your, oh, by the way, yeah, it doesn't work that way. So
It has to be boring. That's
I definitely sympathize with members of the public about the weird and artificial kinds of interactions we have to have in these public fora. But yeah, I learned to keep my mouth zipped when it was not my turn.
We all bite our tongues quite a bit, like a good marriage. Anyway, does anybody have anything else they want to add or question for Pete? Anything at all?
So just
yes.
since I wasn't in attendance at the last meeting, it looks like, if I just summing up what I think is happening, that we put forward a motion that they didn't have that would give them two options.
Yes.
And propose language for those two options. One where the city is included under the ordinance, and one where the city continues to be clear, but more clearly exempt from the ordinance, but with the intention to live by it nonetheless.
Yeah, at our previous meeting, we had a bare quorum, and it was just Fran and I and our two new members, and we didn't feel fully comfortable making in our resolution a recommendation that they go one particular way or the other, but we wanted them to have our recommendations. And so we passed a resolution basically saying, we asked the city council to fix the ordinance because it's got a problem, and you could fix it this way or that way, and we take no position on which way you attempt to do so.
Honestly, I kind of like that. I mean, I think giving them, it feels more appropriate for the city to, the actual council to make that decision than for, although I suppose we could have said we have a preference, but it seems elegantly done. And I also wanted to say welcome to the new members, because I'm fairly new myself, but it's wonderful to also see other new faces.
I was thinking that at the end of the meeting, we can, even though we don't have all our members here, we do have a public, and it would be nice if Megan and Julie would say a few words, introduce themselves. That would be really sweet. Okay, actually the city also made some of the, in the part of the resolution and part of our recommendations where we said the city is committed to the ordinance, they actually discussed making that a little stronger and saying the city shall follow the ordinance. And if there's a concern, we talk to the city and try to work that out. But then it's necessary that they listen, and it would be nice to have a full-time officer. Okay.
Oh, and
yes.
just to close the loop on one other thing, last month,
yes.
There are a couple of other ordinance changes that we had discussed that were sort of different parts sprinkled through, and we all decided not to put those in the resolution and to hold those until after the council deals with what is now an immediate issue. And then I'm glad to continue to hold the pen on keeping track of those and writing up the changes we recommend, and then passing a resolution in the future to, add on some of those. But we decided one thing at a time for the council would be good.
Yes, one nice big complex thing. Okay, if there's no more discussion on that, we have new business, and didn't mean to overexcite you by bringing in the bylaws, but here we go. Actually, I think the bylaws are cool because this is the place where we get to self-govern in areas that are not covered in the ordinance or other rules that apply to us. And I think that's kind of exciting. It's also nice to see what people who came before us had in mind, and that may have been forgotten along the way. The way that it is structured now, if we bring suggested changes, we can talk about them, but we can't vote on them until the following meeting, which is a way of us having us think about them, having us maybe run it past the legal and so forth. So I think that's a good idea. I think there are a couple areas where it's very clear that we would probably want to amend this document with the order of the meeting, which has evolved, isn't quite the same. Some things have also evolved with the awards. And notice there's a lot of text in here about the Martin Luther King Jr. Award. And those are some things I'd like to see some changes to. So Julie, did you have your hand up? I'm sorry. Okay. What I'd like to see you do is to take this home, look at it, think about what you'd like to see in here, changes or additions. We could have a mascot. I don't know. Anyway, send them to me, and I will put them in, and we can look at it and discuss it next time, and then maybe vote on it the meeting following, if that's agreeable to everybody. Yes, Pete.
That sounds great. And I started scribbling down things that I noticed that needed updating.
Mm-hmm.
One of the things, right now there's a section which says hearing rules, for the formal hearing should be, set up in a set of hearing rules. And that's basically it. It would be nice if all of our assorted outside rules were sort of attached to this as appendices. And I was wondering if either Elizabeth or Tamara would have the ability to sort of scrape those together, and then we could have references in the bylaws to those sort of outside things, so we don't lose track of, oh, yep, we've got to update that too when we get to coming up with that.
Yeah, I'm sure between the two of us we can do a search and see what we can locate.
The three things that I know we have procedures for written down somewhere. We have the basic hearing rules. We have a set of special hearing rules that we came up with for large employment cases that were like they're an experimental hearing rules or something like that. We haven't used them yet. And then we have our EEO workforce review rules. So yeah, if you could get those three together, and then I was thinking that, and I don't know if you want to handle these separately or as part of the bylaws updates, Fran, procedures for informal hearings were not written down. And I think we now have some ideas about how the informal appeal hearings should go. And there's also the taxi appeal thing, which we've never done, but got written into the taxi ordinance. And those probably need to be written down as what are procedures for taxi licensing appeals, which come to us.
Oh boy.
Yeah. So,
all right.
and like I said, if you want to do this basic stuff that we need to do right now, and then bring those up later, or when we have a new officer hired, that's fine. But I didn't want to lose track of those sort of appendices that we might need.
Right. I think that we can make note of those, at least, even, I don't think there's a whole lot hanging on what changes we make right now, with possible exception of what we do when a complaint comes directly to the commission.
Oh, yes. Yeah.
So, so look at it, put your wishes and dreams in there, and we'll take a look at it next week. Does anyone have any question or anything we'd like to say about that? Yes, Florence.
Well, just that it's great to see these, and I don't think I got them as a new member.
Probably true.
So probably one thing that needs to be in there, and I didn't see a section of kind of the but really it's the first time I've looked at it, kind of members of the commission, but probably it needs this meta thing that says, and all new members of the commission will be given and encouraged to study the bylaws.
You know, you'll get a nice signed document when you leave. So,
Yeah.
anyway, okay. I mean, we can make this as colorful as we like. Anyway, okay, great. I'm glad we're taking a look at those. I know I was given a copy when I joined it was 2008, I think. And Todd Rent gave them to me. They were pretty new at the time. And then I never saw them again. So that you haven't received them does not surprise me. So this is good. Okay, now we move on to Elizabeth, the workforce statistics and staff report.
We actually do not have any workforce statistics to review tonight, which is, I think, unusual.
Wow, that's a first.
In terms of staff report, we haven't had a lot of activity. Tamara and I are currently trying to find a way to connect with one particular person who's indicated they have a discrimination complaint, but we're having some scheduling issues. So I'll report to you on that next time. I did want to mention that you are going to be notified that you need to file statements of economic interest. And I don't think that this has happened in the past with this commission, and I'm not sure why. This is the first time I've been involved with this commission, but when I received the request from the city clerk's office to review the list, I noticed we had no HRC members on it. And when I actually went to the Government Ethics Act, it was the only thing, well, I'm just gonna give you the specifics here because I think I have this on my, or I did, on my screen somewhere. So the act specifically talks about people who are appointed to boards and commissions for units of local government. It's very clear that if a board or commission has the authority to expend public funds, they do have to file a statement. And then the only other thing they say about this is it doesn't apply to members of boards or commissions who function in an advisory capacity. So I think you function in more than an advisory capacity, and therefore the safe thing to do was to put you on the list for the county clerk. So I don't know if you've seen those yet. It's I do it every year and have for 30 years. It's pretty straightforward, but if you have any concerns, I can try to help. So that's all I got for you.
Wow, yay. We'll have a Marion Knight meeting tonight. He was famous for really moving along. Okay, but before we go, does anyone have any announcements? So maybe Megan and Julie can just give us a few words. Did you have an opportunity, Florence? Yes, you did, I think. Yeah, okay. So Megan or Julie, yeah, whoever is.
You want to go first or?
Okay, you're on.
All right. So my name is Megan McKissick. I've lived in Urbana for 3 years now. I live here with my husband and our 2 cats and our dog. I got my bachelor's degree in social work. I have a master's in public administration, and I'm currently getting my master's in social work. I have a history of working in adult protective services and other case management services with the elderly. I am currently the director of Piatt County Services for Seniors in Monticello.
Thank you. As you know, we're a real hangout for social workers, so we welcome you warmly. Hey, Julie?
Yep. Can everybody hear me? I had to switch my audio device. Okay, great. So I'm Julie Robinson Schaefer. I have lived in Urbana now for almost 20 years this year. I live here with my husband. We also have 2 cats and a 16-year-old. So I have worked for the University of Illinois for also about 17 years, and I work in the Central Research Office. So my primary function is to read legal language and negotiate in accordance with university policies and bylaws and regulations. So this is right up my wheelhouse. So, yeah, I think I'm very excited to help serve.
Legal geeks and social workers and other good-hearted people. Okay, I think that's it for tonight. I can now go back out in the snow, having been the sacrificial lamb tonight. You can't tell, but I'm in chambers.
Thank you for
And
being
so I was-
willing to come in, especially not being yet quite fully vaccinated. So
Oh no, I'm ready to throw away my mask and fly to
don't,
the Bahamas.
don't,
No,
don't,
I'm not
don't.
going
No,
to.
no, 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 no. And I'll just say that actually by early March, I will also have had my two, because clergy were included in this round. So, you don't have to be the only one going in.
Okay. Oh, yeah. Well, Pete's been very good about it too. So anyone's welcome. I mean, we accept anyone as a sacrificial lamb for the week or scapegoat, whatever it turns out to be. Okay. Thank you very much. And good night, all. The meeting is adjourned.